Hey guys, okay, I've got a quick intro to this video I want to show you, and it's about the 3 stages of working with a horse in a training session, I guess you could call it, or something that whenever you're doing something with a horse, whatever you want to call it, a training session or an education session or some time together or whatever, to me there's always sort of 3 stages when I'm really trying to get something done. If I'm just sort of goofing around, then maybe not. Maybe I'm just trying to do one thing. But when I'm really trying to accomplish something, I'll do it in 3 stages. And so I want to talk about that really quickly before I get into the video that I took, which I didn't bother talking or narrating in. I just put the camera down and I just did the work. So it's a little bit long. I'm probably going to mainly put this on YouTube because YouTube offers the ability that's probably out of focus, but offers the ability to speed it up, so if you want to watch it a little bit quicker, it'll help. But I will narrate it through so that you can understand what I was thinking or the things that I'm looking for or doing that may not seem obvious just by watching. So to quickly talk about those 3 stages, the first stage that I'm thinking about when I get a horse to come in and do something, whether it's doing trailer work, whether it's doing groundwork, whether I'm working on the ground or something like that, it's going to be something very establishing, something very well known. So in her case, I started off, before I had the camera out, I started off with just the very basic groundwork. I then moved to something that I knew that she was pretty good at, and knows, maybe has a little bit of worry, but I'm going to start with this stage 1 is the establishing sort of exercises that I'm going to use throughout the next stage, which is where she's going to be concerned or worried and not comfortable, whether that's getting into a trailer, whether that's going across a puddle, or just getting used to tarps, bags, ropes, all kinds of things. In this case, it was a rope, so that's the next stage, stage 2. Okay, now stage 2 is really important because this is where you're going to find the most growth out of the horse. You're going to get something done. You're going to get them in a trailer. You're going to get them through a gate or over a stream or into a puddle or across a jump. Or in this case, I was trying to get her used to the fact that you know, somebody's going to swing a rope around her sooner or later. She may even be roped off of, who knows? I mean, but bottom line is she has to get used to the fact that rope swinging and the sound of the rope swinging and the rope landing on her and stuff is going to be part of her life. And it doesn't need to be a dangerous thing. She can be okay with that. So that's stage 2. Stage 2 is the growth period. So you've got stage 1, where you get them to get used to what you're going to ask them to do, and that's going to be go, stop, turn, and within the stop you're going to do a backup. So those 4 things are really super important. So stage 1 establishes that. Make sure that you've got it good in your groundwork, if you're doing groundwork at this point. If you're in the saddle, same deal. And then when you're getting to stage 2, you're going to have trouble. They're going to want to escape and stuff like that. So you need that groundwork in place to make sure rolling in the, I'm in the arena with the boys, so they're rolling, and so it's kind of cute. But anyways, so what you're going to need to be able to do is direct them, be able to drive them and direct them. A lot of horses can stand stuff by just standing around, but if you can get them to move at the same time, this is the thing that you're doing, whether it's working with a tarp or a bag or a rope or whatever, then you can also have them grow through that. So that's stage 2. Okay, so stage 3 is about bringing everything back. So you've done your stage 1, you've got some establishing stuff. Stage 2, you've got the very difficult stuff, and then the stage 3 is where you are going to bring them back down. And so when you've done the exercise that you want to do, and you get them to where they're kind of in a good place. Hopefully you leave them in a good place. Hopefully you leave the exercise somewhere that made sense to them, where they're not thinking they needed to flee or escape or run away. And if you can do that, then your next step is to bring them back to the original spot that you started at, with maybe just a little bit of work in there. So I finished this whole exercise, and I started with just the groundwork. I moved to the flag, or the bag. In my case, I just used a bag on the end of a dressage stick. It's pretty noisy and stuff. I came back to that at the very end because she already knows what that is. And so when we come back to something that they know and I can get some movement on, and just a little bit of stretch in there, then we've taken them from a good place to a troubled place, hopefully out of that troubled place and back into a place where they're like, oh, okay, I know what I'm doing here. I know how to handle this. And then when you're done all that and they come back down from wherever they've been, be concerned, and then you let them go. So those are the 3 stages that I think are very important to consider when it comes to working with horses, to do anything, to do any type of exercise. And hopefully that makes sense. Hopefully this next 20 minutes or so is going to make some sense too. Again, if it's a little long, so you know, you might watch some pieces of it, but by missing some pieces you might miss the whole thing. So I'm just putting this out there. You know, I did some roping. I'm not the best roper around. You know, it's good practice. It's good to practice around your horse, different things that you can and can't do. They'll get used to you sort of fumbling about. You'll see that she gets concerned when I sort of shake things around. And that's another thing that you can think about when doing exercises with your horse. You don't have to be great at it. A lot of people don't do groundwork because they're embarrassed. They can't do it. It's very difficult. I had a lady, really nice horse, and she says, I can't do that. That looks very difficult. And I said, it just takes a little time. But by fumbling around and sort of giving it a go, you have a much better chance of succeeding than if you never tried at all. So hopefully that helps. Let's get a couple of minutes, maybe not, maybe 30 seconds or so of these guys running around playing, just for entertainment purposes, and then we'll move right into the video to watch what I did with Gracie. And she did really well. There's no cliffhanger here. In the end, she came out of it perfect, better. She's better than she was last time that I did this exercise with her. The last time I did it with her, she was terrified. She was really worried. So I'm seeing great progress in this. I know that this technique works, and so I thought I would share it just in case anybody else was wondering. Okay, thanks for watching this far, and if you watched to the end of the next part, thank you very much. Let me know what you think. If you have any questions, if you don't agree, I'm totally open to that kind of thing as well. Just let me know. And talk to you guys again soon. Okay, so here we are with Gracie, and what I want to sort of start with right here, I've already done a little bit of groundwork with her with just rope, So now I'm coming in with something that I've worked with her on for a little while now, just having her be comfortable, not only with just a stick, but also with the bag. Plastic bags are kind of noisy. It gets horses worried. As you can see here, she's concerned. She's trying to get away from it a little bit. So I'm going to ask her to stop. And when she does stop, I'll hopefully be able to move up towards her and get on one side of her. Now, she was moving a little bit to one way, so I had to block her a little bit, but finally got around. And here is where I'm going to, because when I move to I'm always thinking of what my next step is when I'm doing things like this to get them to where they're not too concerned. So I really want her to be okay with me playing around with the back end of her body, where I can rub her all over with this thing and let her know that it's okay. And she's very quick to sort of get there, to get to a point where she says, oh, okay, this isn't a big deal. So all of my work here is really just making sure she understands that what I'm doing, I'm not here to hurt her, I'm not here to cause her problems, I'm not here to, create any bodily damage, I guess you could say. Horses are most concerned with staying alive, like we all are. They just happen to be very good at running away from it. So something to really, really pay attention to here, in my opinion, for my own safety, which is why I'm saying something very, very important to pay attention to, is that when she's going around me, her nose is on the inside. If her nose is on the inside, it means her butt is going to the outside. She's really good at rearing up. Some horses are great at rearing up. Some horses are great at just moving out of the way, left or right, doesn't really matter, and backing up. Horses that back up will tend to rear. They'll want to get their front end out of the way so that they can make a turn, most likely, and take off. So here I'm getting her a little bit worried by really shaking this thing around. I mean, I'm making a lot of noise, a lot of movement, but you can see that the lead line is straight and tight because I'm putting some pressure on her to ask her to come forward into the pressure of the flag. And as soon as she does, it is my responsibility to release all pressure and encourage her. And the next time we do this, and the time after that, and the time after that, usually gets a little bit better in regards to her trusting that what I'm doing has nothing to do with her. She needs to just kind of hang out. So each time I go to reach for her, and it's going out of frame a little here, so I come back in, but each time I reach for her, I'm hoping that she'll meet me halfway. Now the other thing that I will do if I'm doing something like this where I've got something that's pressure based, whether it's this flag or whether it's rope or tarp or say a motorized item, whether it's a vehicle or a leaf blower or something, I will have the horse follow me around while I'm doing something with it. There's something to be said for a horse that can go with you while you're doing something. And again, you really need to get their feet moving while you're working with them. So a lot of my movements here, a lot of the things that I'm doing while she's moving, but I don't want her moving with worry or concern. So here I'll change directions and just ask her to kind of go the other way until she calms down and just walks it. Because we're not looking to do this at a trot yet. Everything gets more difficult at higher speeds. Everything. It doesn't matter what it is. You can get more done with a horse having them just walk around you, and that's what I'm looking for her to do. So I keep changing directions because I want her to just walk out, and I'm staying very calm. I think I'm talking to her here and there, just trying to give her the idea she doesn't need to be too concerned. And this is great practice for the horse because they can come around you, her nose is in, her butt's on the way out all the time. She's always ready to make a turn and square up to me. So if the time were to come where I would sit on her back, ride her, then in theory I should be able to get a pretty good one rein stop out of her so that she doesn't just take off on me. And you'll see when we get to the rope work that that one rein stop is going to be really handy. Here I do something slightly different. I need her to come back in. I know I'm out of frame, so it's not helping anybody if I'm out of frame, let alone my own observations of how she's doing and how I'm doing. But I'll walk sideways with her. A lot of groundwork has to do with them just going around you a little bit, but you can really get some precision by here walking a little bit sideways. So we go together a little bit and I push her more towards the fence. See, now she's walking now. I'm a little bit calmer, so she's a little bit calmer. I can still rub her with the bag. And I'm going to stick with this until I get her calm. You can see every once in a while she sort of looks on the outside of our circle. But when I bring my hand in and ask her to move her butt one way so she comes to a stop and squares up to me, she's calmly doing that. I go to pet her. She does bring her head down, and that's a big deal. Bringing their head down is a big deal. It takes some trust there because they lose a little bit of their vision. And I'm going to cover vision and eyeballs and how those things work on a horse in time. Not in this one, but it's really important. So now I've got a rope in my hands. I've got my 60-foot roping rope. Now I don't want to see any comments here about whether or not I can rope or if I'm any good or how I'm holding things and stuff. It takes a lot to get good at roping, a lot of practice. And I'm not there yet, but I'm getting there. And I'm going to keep on going at it. And so this has been a great opportunity for me to practice a little bit with her, for her to see that I'm not smooth. I'm going to move the rope in odd ways. I'm going to be trying to fix it. I'm going to be trying to get a loop. I'm going to be trying to figure out where my spoke is and stuff like that in the roping practice here. As you can see, my coils are pretty loose. They should be much better, but she needs to, here I was just getting a little bit of goop out of her eyes, but she needs to understand that I'm going to probably mess around. Now I didn't ask her to move, so that's always not, it's not what I want. So I'll probably just, as you can see here, I'm just going to probably get her to stop. Let's see what I do. So I'm swinging a rope a little bit, and she's pretty worried. She gets pretty concerned about this, and she'll throw her head in the air. Now a head thrower, again, is usually a rearer, if that's even a word, but a horse that will rear upwards. There, she moved a little step towards me. I'm going to keep swinging a little. And I'm really not going to pay attention. I'm not going to look at her. My driving or leading hand, or my leading hand, which is the one with the lead rope in it, is just staying pretty steady. Now she didn't go anywhere, so just going to see if I can get a little bit further with her. I tried to get her rope onto her back. This is where she really struggles. And the thing about her, the interesting thing about her is I can get a tarp on her, I can throw a blanket on her. I mean, all these things are fine, but you know, you get to this new thing, you get a rope and it swings around and it makes noise. So here I'm having her come with me. She went to go to try to sort of cut me off, so I just changed directions. Now here she is coming back around, so I block that and I ask her to move the other direction around me. So now I'm using my rope as a driving tool, and I'm not really getting her acclimated to it. It's more of a pressure. And so I'll ask her to stop again, because she's done what I've asked her to do. Ask her to come forward a little bit more. There. And so she comes forward and she finds a little bit of trust there. She's okay. Maybe this is going to be all right. Now I'm going to start with the usual, as you've seen probably a zillion times in a zillion horse training videos, where you go to rub the horse with whatever object it is that you're going to bug them with. So with it on her back, she does go and sort of trot off and wander off. And I'm just going to keep this up. This is stage 2. So stage 1 was using the bag and the stick. And so we get her to where she's in a good place with something I've already worked with. Now I'm on stage 2. This is the hard part. This is the part that can be dangerous. This is the part that can be very active. And you can have a lot of trouble with this for the horse. There, she stepped forward. I stop. And I just go back to reassure her and just let her know it's okay. Now she's pretty concerned. So you see her head shake, her ears went back, her tail flicked a little. She thinks something's going to happen. Everything counts here. Every bit of timing matters. Making sure that she doesn't always escape the pressure. So I might come with her a little bit, but I'll also ask her to stop, because there does become a point where you keep going with them and going with them and going with them, and it never occurs to them to stop moving their feet because they're just trying to get away from something that they are worried about. So here she's turning away from me. I'd like her not to, so I ask her to stop doing that, and finally I can get around to one side. But she's very used to this pattern, where I come around her left side and I throw the rope up over her back and she gets all scared and worried and thinks she's going to get hurt. So she's quite good at sort of evading that, which is also very good practice for exercise and getting up under herself. Here I'm asking her to come forward to me. You can see, because her feet are sticky, I refer to them as sticky, they're stuck in one spot, I'm just going to wait. I'll jiggle the rope a little bit. She knows what this means. And she comes forward. And I release. And she shakes. And she sort of gets rid of a little bit of that stress. Her head will come down a little bit. And now I'm going to come back to her. And she's still pretty concerned. This takes a while. Stage 2 is theoretically the longest stage. See, she'll kick out at that rope. She just hates to have that thing around her. Now I have finished one of these sessions off at a good place twice now for her with roping. Do a bunch of other things, but with roping it's a real challenge. So I don't pressure her too much. I don't bug her too much, but I need to get her to a place that's comfortable, where she finds that she doesn't have to do what she's doing right now. She doesn't have to buck and kick out and try to evade the rope. Now she has successfully got the rope off of her back. I need her to come in and come meet me part way and understand that I'm going to keep doing this. Here I bring her in and I play with the rope and I throw it in the air and I stay busy. But I'll pet her. I'll always come back to pet her. And so when she sees me getting active again, she throws her head in the air. She's really worried. And these kinds of things take time. Stage 2 is, depending on what you're doing, can be the longest stage of them all. So try again. Now we're not making any progress at this part. So when you're training horses, you have to understand you're not always going to be making great progress throughout a particular stage of the session. And recognizing when and where that's happening is just the evolution of the session. And if you're watching me or you're watching other people, I'm not in the frame now, so I have to bring her over. You can't be too critical of this, because you have to test things out. You have to try things out. Every horse is different. They all respond to different things. So because she's struggling with the fact that I'm going to swing this rope around, I do more swinging. And I'll come over and pet her. And I'll put it on her manually instead of throwing it on her. Because she needs to understand that this thing is going to come over her. So her ears are back and she's pretty worried. You can see she's not quite comfortable. But she gets there. I will say, as I said in the beginning of this video, she does come out of this pretty good. So while it might look exciting in the middle of stage 2, that should be sort of the climax of stage 2. Now she's just sort of going backwards a little, and I'd like her to go forward. She still has the rope on her back. And when you're in the climax of stage 2, hopefully you can figure out how to come back down. So if throwing it at her doesn't work yet, no problem. Come back a little bit. Get to something to where she's good. Got it on her back. I'm jiggling it a little bit so she starts to trot. What did we do in stage 1? We established that she can stop through a small tug on the lead rope on her head. So we know that. She knows that. I know that. The communication still exists between her and I, despite the fact that she's really worried. If you don't have that, you don't have any place in being at stage 2. You must stay in stage 1. Which might be a stage 2 because you're just trying to get something like a go, stop, and turn done. So It's coming along pretty good so far. I'll do a little bit more swinging here. I'll just get her to where she isn't tossing her head around and throwing her head all over the place. She has to come into the pressure. I'm asking her to. She says, okay. Very alert. Ears are forward. It's good. I'll pet her. I'll reassure her. She's been a good girl. Trying to get around her side. I really need to be able to finish this stage 2 in a really good place. But I also really need to get done what I want to get done, so that the next time I come to this, it'll be even better. And I can tell you, the first time I did this, even with that rope just on her back, on her wither, she was still trying to kick it off and jump around and stuff. It concerns her. She's not a roping horse, she's a Hanoverian. She's more for doing other horsey events. So this is brand new to her. Can't hold it against her for coming up to something brand new and being worried about it. It's my responsibility to make sure she comes out of it educated. There, we got a nice one rein stop. Her head comes down a little bit. She says, okay, I know what to expect. But I'm still having the struggle to get around that side because she knows as soon as I do, there might be trouble. But there isn't. There's just some nice pats and some rubs and probably some kind words of some sorts. And I'll mess with the rope a little bit. And here's where I'm going to try to get it around her, and she's getting worried. And that's normal, and that's okay. And I still have all of my tools at my disposal here to where I can get her to turn, I can get her to back up, I can get her to go. And this is how I'm going to acclimate her to anything and everything that I need to acclimate her to from the ground. In the saddle, it's kind of the same thing. And the good thing is this stuff translates into the saddle. Now you can see the ropes come around her back end. She's a little worried. She kicks up, it stays on. I ask her to stop. Play with the rope a little bit, ask her to go. Come back around. I'm going with her here. See, it's not just a circle, we're doing sort of a rectangle. Now I'll ask her to do a one rein stop. She does. Very, very responsive. Quite soft. It doesn't take a lot of work. I'm not manhandling her. I'm not getting blisters on my hands working the ropes. I'm not, getting rid of all this skin. I mean, it's happened in the past with different horses and where you're just working the rope so hard that the skin of your hand is coming off. So now I'm going to try to finish on a good note. And it's hard. It's hard for her. But she does respond to me. She comes to a stop a little bit quicker. The rope came off, so I need to mess around with that a little bit more. And we're getting close to finishing up stage 2 because we've done a couple of things that are really hard for her. So I also need to be able to bring her back down from that, and then we can move into stage 3 where we just sort of mess around a little bit more until she can finally come out of it. Now this is actually great practice. This looks kind of weird, but she's actually backing a nice circle. And this is something that you'd want to do also when you get into the saddle, is to be able to have your horse back up, not only back up, but back a circle. Now I'm not really asking for it, she's actually just giving it, but I'm going to ask her to stop because I'm not asking for it. So I'll rub her down a little bit, make sure she's okay, touch her back end, see how she responds. And I'm always checking her body language. And that means where her head is, where her ears are, what her tail's doing, what her legs are doing, whether she's moving, whether she's not moving, whether she's sniffing the ground. All of these things are really important to me. Because some of them will equate to whether or not I'm going to get kicked. So now I'm going to wait. She wasn't ready. Ask her to come forward a bit. She's stuck. Sticky feet again. Sticky feet means she's not ready. So I'm just going to wait. This is a patience. It's a game of patience. Now I'm hoping she doesn't throw her head. She throws her head a little, but she moves forward. I like for her to not ever throw her head upwards a little bit, even though it's subtle, it's still there. I don't want it. So mess around with her a little bit more. Now she's got this thing around her butt. I need to be able to get around her. So I'm just putting my hands high so she can understand that I need to be in this space. I'm going to get her to, I'm practicing my one rein stop here. She's soft, she's light. She did it really well, no kicking. I'm going to get out while the getting's good. Stage 2 has almost completed. Ask her to come with me while I mess with my rope a little bit. This is the point where stage 2 has finished. She's made it through relatively well. Something that up until now has been a real big concern for her. I'll come back to what I was doing in stage 1. I'll just sort of follow up with all of that, and she'll just walk around normally now. And she knows that this is not really a big deal. Playing with a bag, touching the back end, playing in the stifle area, usually horses get pretty concerned. She did when I first started doing this. And so what you're seeing here is just hours of practice and effort to make sure that she knows that this plastic bag, this stick that I shake around and wave around and stuff, has nothing to do with having her do anything other than whatever I'm directing her to do with my directing hand, which is the one that has the lead rope in it. Here I wanted her to, because we were doing this in the beginning of stage 1, I really want her to be okay with the sound, with the movement of this stick and bag in the air, and just be patient and just wait on her. There's no rush here. There's nothing, you know, there's no rodeo that needs to happen, I guess you could say. Some people call it. She's got a pretty good demeanor throughout this part. A lot of horses have a lot of problems when you bring stuff up over their head, and she definitely has that. So I work at it a little bit. We're in stage 3, we're trying to bring things down, but a little bit of work can get done here. This isn't a rope on her butt anymore. You know, I'm not going crazy with this thing, but she has to get used to that it's there. So we just sort of keep at this a little bit, and I've got tension on the lead line, you might notice, because I need her to put her head down. So once she puts her head down, once she sort of, I don't know if you'd call it submit, but sort of just comes back to a place where she's not keeping her head up high and alert to where she might be thinking about escaping. So I'm going to finish off stage 3 with just a good rub down. Hopefully she doesn't move. I don't mind that her ears are back a little, her tail's not flashy, and she's sort of, you know, just sort of hanging out with me. And I'm lacking great direction here, which is fine. I've got the lead rope behind my back. I'm sort of asking her to move around me a little bit. And I sort of finished with that. She came out of this just great. Really, really productive session. Really happy with her. So hopefully that has been useful. Thanks for watching.